It's time for Wretched Radio with Todd Friel.
Have I told you lately that Larry loves you? This is Wretched Radio. Tony,
Larry?
Joey, Larry, oh, he loves
Larry?
you. He loves you. Oh, how he loves you. He really, really loves you. I'm telling you, Larry loves you.
Who's Larry?
You know who Larry is. I'm just telling you. He loves you so much. And at some point, I suspect you might hopefully ask, well, how exactly does Larry love me, and how does he demonstrate that love? And I can't help but wonder if that is our malady in evangelical Christianity today. We spend an awful lot of time telling people God loves you, he really, really loves you, but we don't explain much about who this God is and how he demonstrates that love. And I wonder if it isn't time to start acting like Paul and proclaiming the excellencies of Christ instead of perpetually defending the faith. How's about instead we stand up, wave our hand, and proclaim, this is who Jesus Christ is. This is how amazing he is, and this is how he demonstrates his love for you. I can't help but wonder how many people might actually, be encouraged by that. How many people might actually be saved from depressive feelings if they realized and were reminded, this is who this Christ is that you claim to follow, and this is how amazing he actually is. Case in point. When was the last time you heard a sermon like this from Jonathan Edwards? Please note the Puritans, yes, they did preach some scathing stuff. We have a tendency to be drawn to that, don't we? There's so little of that these days. We tend to really like the fiery stuff. We feel it brings a little balance. While that's not terrible, I'm not that sure that's the way we should actually eat food. You spend 5 days eating nothing but carbs. The next 5 days, nothing but protein. 5 days after that, eat your fruit. 5 days after that, eat your veggies. Not exactly a healthy diet. Sound consumption of theology and preaching and worship music, I think, should be a little bit more mixed. A little bit of everything on your plate. And then you clean your plate, and you're going to be a little bit more spiritually healthy. Thank you. I wrote that analogy. Instead of just gobbling down all the fiery stuff from the Puritans, listen to how they lifted up the glories of our God. I have to ask, when was the last time I've preached a sermon that even comes close to this? Furthermore, how were they able to preach sermons like this? I can't help but wonder if it isn't because they spent more time pondering, as opposed to, I got to search it, I got to Google it, I've got to get my different commentaries and my blue letter Bible and my logo software, and I'm going to put this. Just contemplating the excellencies of Christ. Maybe that allows somebody like Johnny Edwards, because we're like that. Johnny Edwards to write a sermon, how astonishing is all of this. How astonishing it is that one who is forever blessed and is infinitely and essentially happy should endure the greatest sufferings that were ever endured. How astonishing it is that one who is the supreme Lord and judge of the world should be arraigned and stand at the judgment seat of mortal worms and then be condemned. How astonishing it is that one who is the living God and the fountain of all life should be put to death. How astonishing it is that one who created the world and gives life to all of his creatures should be put to death by his own creatures. That one of infinite majesty and glory, and so the object of the love, praises, and adoration of angels should be mocked and spit upon by the vilest of men. How astonishing it is that one who is infinitely good and who is love itself should suffer the greatest cruelty. That one who is infinitely beloved by the Father should be put to inexpressible anguish under his own Father's wrath. How astonishing it is that one who is the King of heaven, who has heaven for his throne and earth for his footstool, should be buried in the dungeon of the grave. How astonishing is all of this! And yet, this is the way that God's wisdom has fixed upon as the way of sinners' salvation, as neither unsuitable nor is dishonorable to Christ. How great is the love the Father has lavished on us that we should be called children of God. You heard a sermon like that lately? I wonder if this isn't woefully lacking in our pulpits and in our consumption of theological studies and even Bible reading or devotional time. Maybe, just maybe, we would see a change, not just in culture, but perhaps in our own hearts. It's just nonstop. The suicides and the depression inside of the church. I just wonder if we're not seeing another pendulum swing. That we hear so much ooey gooey. He loves you, he really, really loves you. Oh, how he loves yo. Because I had to be hip and make that rhyme, sort of. But we never hear how. What did he do? How does he show this great love for us? How amazing is his love for us? That demonstrates how amazing he is. How that might change some depressive Christians from being sad and blue to rejoicing and praising Christians. I wonder how much that type of preaching and consumption of devotional material might change the way we evangelize. How's about it might change that we evangelize at all? How's about that we actually get excited to share this great good news? That it's like the pearl of great price to us again. That it is better than the latest restaurant that we found that, they served, you really got to try it. Or how's about that movie? You got to see it. How's about we study the excellencies of Christ more, and we will desire to talk about him more. I wonder if we're missing that a lot these days. I think there's a couple of pendulums at play. One is the squishy, mucky, sort of sloppy, gooey Song of Solomon, hyper-allegorized. God is just, you love him. He sings over his people, you know. He really does. He sings over us because he just loves it, because we're so lovable. And we go, give me some of them Puritans. Give me that fire and brimstone sort of stuff to balance out that slop that so many people are slinging from their platforms. And not really pulpits, they're platforms. I wonder, too, if because we are living in a culture that is so scientifically driven, we still feel the age of enlightenment effects on us today, that everything needs to be proven. Science needs to give it the test and the thumbs up. They need to demonstrate and repeat it in a laboratory. And if we don't pass scientific muster, well, then we look like idiots. And so we've gone about the business, rightly so, of studying apologetics, which is good. Is it not good to study apologetics? To be able to share the reason for the hope that lies within us, although I'm not sure that that's an apologetics verse as much as, again, proclaiming the excellencies of Christ when somebody persecutes you and asks, why are you responding that way? The answer isn't, well, because there's 5,600 fragments, partials, and whole manuscripts that demonstrate that the Bible is an accurate transmission of the original text. I don't think that's what Peter had in mind. I think the responding, giving a reason for the hope that lies within us is because you can beat my feet if you want to, but the beautiful feet of the one who walked the shores of Galilee had his feet pierced for me, that I might walk on streets of gold. That's why. So go ahead, do to me what you must, but I have treasures awaiting me because Jesus Christ has purchased them for me. And I think that's more of what's in view in 1 Peter 3:15. Nevertheless, it is good to be able to study those things, but I wonder if we haven't just assumed that's the way that evangelical or evangelistic encounters have to go. They come up with the accusations, and we have the answers. I wonder how many of us are afraid to actually evangelize because of that. Well, I don't know that I'll know all the answers. They bring all these different accusations. Maybe. So what if they do? I'm a little weary of apologizing for the faith. A little bit more interested in going, look, you just have no idea what you are criticizing. You have no idea the power of the one that you are accusing right now. I'm just look, I'm not throwing out apologetics, and I just was reading an apologetics book last night by Nathan Busenitz. It has its place, but I wonder if we haven't just assumed this defensive posture, and maybe, just maybe, it is time to start going on the offensive, not by persecuting people, but by proclaiming Christ and Him crucified and the glories of heaven. Maybe. This is Wretched Radio.
If you'd like more Wretched content, and who wouldn't, visit wretched.org and you will have Wretched coming out of your nose. And that's biblical.